Hello, friends. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Today I am finally going to continue on in making my masculine cards with my Heartfelt Creation products. So, I know this video has been a long time coming. I just had some family things going on that just took me out of my craft room for a few days. So, all right, let's go ahead and change the camera view and take a look at the masculine cards I've made for today. Okay, so here they are, and I've got 3 of them. And hopefully you see some things in common. And of course, I'm using the landscape, Create Escape Wilderness dies and stamps. And these are sold out, but hopefully a lot of you have them in your stash. So we've got the Create Escape Wilderness, the Create Escape Backcountry, and the Create Escape Trout Lake. And most of these, they work in a similar way. There is one more set that I did not use today that's got some add-on pieces. And I kept them pretty simple. And another thing that you can kind of see that's in common, besides picking a masculine kind of themed, kind of like the Create Escape has some masculine themes to it with the countryside, the fishing, the cabin, that's all more masculine than say our flowers and the deers. But also I tried to go with some color schemes that would work for the gentleman in our life. So we've got the dark greens and the blues, and then on this one, because it's a fishing and I had this beautiful orange, I pulled in some of the orange and blue just to go a little different. So I'm kind of avoiding the pinks and purples and working more with the natural earth tones. And then for my final kind of top tip for doing masculine with Heartfelt Creation was your choices in dyes. And you can see on these that I chose to use the French Gate and the French Courtyard. And compared to some others, I feel like these have a little bit more of a masculine feel to them. And I'll kind of show you the difference. Like if I was making a round card for a gentleman, I'd more likely use the rounded sunlight window rather than the simply elegant centerpiece. And just the more straight lines, the wider. I'm not saying don't use any curvy, but hopefully you can kind of see how this one is a little more feminine than this one. And of course, this all is not 100%, but when I pick, I kind of look at these kinds of things. So instead of going simply classic, which to me has a little more of a feminine vibe, I would probably use the Majestic Swirl, which has, this one is definitely can be used for anything, but to me, I would use this on a masculine card before I would use this. So, that's just something to look at when you're choosing your products. And another thing you might notice about my papers that I've chosen, besides color, there's not a whole lot of wild patterns. There's a little bit of pattern on this one, but for the most part, we're going with a very smooth kind of palette in the background. So that too can help give a masculine vibe. All right, so to get started, on all 3 of my cards today, I stamped my images. I stamped my images in the Versamark ink, and then I heat embossed them with a bronze copper colored embossing powder. And this one, let me grab the name of it. I picked this one up at Michael's, and it's a Recollection product, and it is called Copper. So I'm not sure, you can kind of see it here with my deers. It's a different color than our gold. So to go with this, rather than using gold, I'm using another product. This is called Rose Gold paper, and it too comes from Michael's, but it really picked up that color on the embossing powder really well. And I just like this for the gentleman. It's not quite as shiny as, say, our Lux Gold. It still has the shiny, but not that real bright, beautiful shiny. And so I really like that on my masculine cards. All right, so to begin, we're going to start with the easiest. And that's going to be this one right here. And so this one says, treat yourself. And for my little corner pieces, I have used the swirly accent sprays. Now, I didn't use these big fancy ones, but I thought these little corner pieces would do a real good job to add some pretties on there without going overly frou-frou. So when I do masculine cards, I like to try to keep them a little more understated. So here are my pieces that I'm going to use for this one. And if you're wondering where my paper came from, for this one, I'm actually using from the Snowy Pines Christmas collection. And I thought these frames would work very well with my wilderness theme. So I have gone ahead and trimmed off all the cardinals. And then I used one of the Cut, Mat, and Create. Grab that. I used the Cut, Mat, and Create 2A, and I used this one right here to go ahead and cut out those inner squares. Now this one had the cardinals that went all the way around, so I went ahead and trimmed it. Then I just went through my stash and found a piece of dark green that this would coordinate with. So today, rather than having this one, I'm going to make this one. Oh boy, got so much product over here to sort through. All right, so when you open the dies for these, it gives you lots of different choices on how you cut it out. So you have this die that would just cut out the trees, the little mill and the trees over here. That would cut out just those images. Then this one, which is what we're going to use in another example, cuts just out the skyline. So we're not going to use either of those, but we are going to use the deers. So for my main image there, I'm going to slide these things out of the way. I just want that to fit just right in there like this. So I just want to make sure I cut my piece so that I can put it on the back right here. So I'm going to take a pencil and just make myself a couple lines to show me where to make sure I cut to. All right, so my lines here, just making sure that it'll fit underneath. You're probably thinking, Carrie, you could measure that. And I avoid measuring if I can get away with it. And in this case, I could. So let's see here. Just going to trim this down. So if any of you have ever planned a wedding before, you know how all-consuming that can be. And it's very, very fun. My daughter and I have been having a great time, but it has been a really busy month with getting things lined up. This morning we met with the florist. That was really fun. And they're coming up with a beautiful plan. I hope someday to be able to share some pictures with you of my daughter's wedding. We're having a really good time planning things. So I'm going to use some double-sided adhesive. And this watercolor paper is really textured, and I think that this double-sided adhesive will be quicker to adhere than if I had to wait on the wet glue. Am I even in the camera here? Let me kind of aim you down just a little bit. There we go. We also have a lot of birthdays in the month of February. So that has also been taking me out of the craft room because we've had lots of birthday dinners and such. So it's all been fun things. Alright, so I'm just putting that right down there on that and burnish it on there really well. Alright, now this has both heat embossing and the watercoloring can kind of warp your paper. I didn't have it taped down when I was watercoloring, so I do have a little bit of warping going on, but that's going to be okay. We're going to go ahead and attach this. And before I go any further, I'm going to put a little bit of shading right around there. So let's see. I think I'm going to use our olive green. I'm just going to that right along that edge. All right. I'm going to go ahead and use my wet glue now, and we'll get this adhered down. So this one comes together really quickly. And like I said, this is not, I'm not really going for doing a watercolor tutorial in this video. If you're interested in my techniques for watercolor, I do have one that uses the Oakberry Lane, and that video is all about watercoloring. So in this one, I'm more just giving you my tips for the masculine cards, but so I went ahead and did my watercoloring in advance. But I did want to show you my new watercolors. So for all of these images, I used the new Altenew Artist Watercolors. And I got this on sale back during Thanksgiving. And I just opened it, and I have to say I love them. So if you enjoy watercoloring, I really like the colors and the vividness of the watercolors from Altenew. They worked really well. All right. So now that I have this done, I'll grab my little corner pieces, and we're just going to add those in place. Now this one, I wanted to make this one a completely flat card. So I'm also going to real quickly cut out my deer. So you'll have to hear my die cut machine a few times today, because there are a few things that I'm going to have to die cut during the video. And this is just one of them. So between the cards I've made here on this channel and the cards that I've made, the masculine cards that I've made over on Whimsy Stamps, I'm getting quite a large collection of masculine cards in my stash. So that's making me very happy. All right. So I have tried, and I'm going to show you one of the cards that I chose not to use for this video. It just wasn't my favorite the way it turned out, but I'll share it with you, and I'll tell you why. This is one that I made using that frame I showed you earlier, and there's several reasons why this one is not my favorite. But one of the main things is I colored it with Copic markers, and I just wasn't as happy with the Copic coloring as I was the watercoloring. So you'll have to give me your opinion. Do you like the watercolor better, or did you like the Copic better? I find these images to be a little too detailed to try to use the brushes with. I know I've seen other people do it successfully, but I feel like I just don't get the look I'm going for. So I always like to try lots of different ways with the different sets to see what I like best, and it seems like with this one and the Seascape Build or Create Escape, I like the watercolor. Okay. I think I like this dark green better than I did this one. It kind of makes this pop a little more. And this one I use the Zig watercolors, where this one I use the new Altenew. And can you tell the difference in the color choices? This one gives you a lot more color choices. Okay. Now to glue these on, we do have like some choices here. I decided I'm going to put them right here, so it kind of frames my picture. You could choose to put them all the way out here on the edges. You can kind of see the difference there, and looky there, I didn't get that quite down. There you go. So I kind of like them more just framing this inner piece rather than the whole, but either way could look nice. So I think I've told y'all before how my husband controls the air conditioner up here. It's like on a timer. And here in Texas, it's like 85, the temperature outside. So we've got the air conditioner on. And all of a sudden, I kid you not, it feels like it's 100 degrees here in my scrap room. So I'm pretty sure that it has gone back to its former wintertime setting. There we go. So I just really liked these little corner pieces to use on a masculine card. I liked the way they, gave you some accent and a little bit of pretty, but they didn't overwhelm and look too overly frou-frou. I know there's some fellas out there that frou-frou would be just fine with them, but when I'm making masculine cards for my stash, I like to keep them a little more understated. All right, so now that I have it this far, now my deers, we could definitely pop those up. On the first card, I did not, but I think on this time, I am going to pop them up. In fact, when I made this one, I die cut it 2 extra times out of thicker paper, and then I layered them up. But I forgot to do that for today, so that's one trick you can do to kind of give them a little more lift. But today, I'm going to actually put some foam on the back of them. There we go. It has been surprising how quickly it has gotten so hot. We didn't have any lead up time to summer. It just kind of all of a sudden was here. All right, so I'm just kind of centering them between my 2 little decorative pieces. And then for my sentiments today, you probably don't recognize this one. This is not a Heartfelt Creations sentiment, but it has quickly become one of my favorite sentiment sets. So I'm going to go ahead and show you, if I can find it here, what I've done with it. Ah, here it is. This is a Pink Fresh Studio set, and you stamp it all as one, and then you die cut it all as one, and it gives you all these different banner shapes. And I ended up with a huge just pile. Some are black and some are gold, but I really like this set. I've been using it quite a bit on my cards because I can just have these all ready to go. And I like all of the sayings. They're very useful. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to pop this up as well. And other than adding this onto a card base, which my 6x6 card bases, I have to prepare myself out of a 12x12 sheet, and I have not done that yet for this one, so we won't add it to a card base quite yet. We're going to move on to our next card, and so for this I'm just going to center it right up here, and there we go. We have another masculine card ready to go. So the next one we're going to work on is our pretty fish. Our fishing card. And for that one, I stuck with my same rose gold, and I'm using the French gate. I believe that this one came from. It's the one that's got the 2 sides rather than the one with the circle. And then I also used the circle one to get the happy birthday. So I cut out the backing piece and a rose gold on this, and we'll go ahead and glue that down. And like I said, when one of my top tips for creating masculine cards is to choose dies that are a little less swirly, and go for the ones that have the straight lines and a little wider sometimes. That typically is a little considered a more masculine feel in the world of design. So and this was kind of stretching it on color, but I didn't think really, considering the overall card. So I did die cut the largest eyelet circle. I'll go ahead and layer these up real quick, and then I'll show you my next one. All right, and this is an A7 card. I'm going to go ahead and put this down. Then we'll just finish the front. Okay, now for this one right here, instead of leaving it all one piece, once I got it glued together, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut right down the center of this piece right here. Okay, so now instead of one piece, I have two. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue one in each of opposite corners on the top and bottom. So I'm going to put this one right up here, leaving just a little bit of an outline. And then this one I'm going to put in this corner. Whoops. I'm going to have to add just a little glue there. And that's one of the things I love about the French gate dies and the courtyard die, is because you can just cut them up and use them in so many different ways. And that's going to give us a very pretty background. Okay, before we go any further, let's talk about this happy birthday die. So these two pieces, this piece and this piece, we're going to use together, these four right here. All right, yes, so this piece was from the French gate, and now we're going to use these dies from the French courtyard. All right, so the way I do it is I take this piece and this piece and I tape it down to whatever I want my base to be. Then I cut a square for this one and I tape it on there. It doesn't have happy birthday yet. It's just a solid piece, and I run it through my die cut machine together so they're the exact same size. Then I go ahead and I remove these two and I add this one to the blue one that's already cut, and I tape that down so that it doesn't move or shift. And then, but I know these two are the exact same size because I die cut them together. So that is how I did that. And then for this piece, I just used one large enough from my circle dies to fit underneath there because I knew I wanted a white background to kind of pick up my white frame. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. So I cut two pieces of paper out at the same time using these two, because it was really frustrating to me when I wasn't doing it together and I kept having like an edge that I had to trim off. And so if you're having that problem, you might try doing it all at the same time. Now before I go any further with this one, I'm going to grab a piece of cardboard here and I'm going to use some garden patina, and I just want this to be a little bit darker than my other pieces. So right here on the word happy, I'm just going to brush on some garden patina. All right, just kind of shading it in a little bit. When I hadn't done this yet and I showed my daughter the card, I said, "Can you read the happy birthday?" And she said, "Where does it say happy birthday?" I was like, "Okay, you obviously can't see it." So once I added just a little bit of ink to darken that up and give a contrast to the rest of my card, then it stood out much better. So that's just a simple thing you can do to kind of have that stand out more. So now I'm going to go ahead and layer this up. Now for this one, I am going to pop that up, and I'm going to use a little bit thicker foam tape for this. some tape around. And this was another thing I did just to get that happy birthday to kind of stand out more. And I'll show you how that works in a moment. When I had it all applied as just flat one piece, again, my daughter had trouble finding where it said happy birthday. But when I raised it up, not only did I darken it, but I raised it up. And those two things together made it much easier to read. Yep, looks like I've got it all. So for this, I'm just going to set that on there. Now, I know that sticky is still going to show, so. And then this piece, I'm not going to raise it up. I'm just going to glue it down into the circle. And this piece really doesn't have an up or down, but I made it so that the little fleur-de-lis part goes down because this one's going up, and I just felt like it gave some different look, so it didn't look exactly the same as this piece. But you kind of want to get that in there straight so that when it's on your card, your little design isn't wonky looking. Okay, now I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to turn it upside down so that this doesn't stick to anything. And I do have a little piece that says get ready to party that we're going to add at the end. So let's go ahead and get our fish part ready to go. So here's our fish die. I'm just going to cut these two apart. And for this one, so just like the other set, it's got multiple ways you can cut this out. So we're going to use the tree line. Now it also has the water line. You could cut that out separately and raise it up or lower it down. It's got the fish and some rocks that you can cut out separately if you wanted to decoupage that and raise it up. And then here's the fish. And then these two pieces are to cut out the other two stamps that are in the set, which we are not using today. All right, but we're just going to cut out the tree line. Let's see here. Have I got that on there right? Yeah. So I find that kind of fun with these sets to kind of play around with how you die cut things. For our other one, we're going to do it a little differently. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. Okay, I'm going to run this through one more time for some. I should have put a shim in there. Okay. All right, so all this did was cut out the tree line. So you can see the tree line lifts up, but the rest of it is still part of the card. So if you wanted to, you could fold that back and have that raise up out of your card, leaving this as part of your main card base, but having the trees stand up above. And we're going to kind of do that, but I'm going to get my circle dies out. And this is the Circle Basic Large. And we're going to use the largest one. And that's the one that's going to fit nicely right inside of our eyelet circle that we've made. And I'm missing one piece here that we're going to have to make. Hold on one second. This is my piece of blue, and we're going to need a section of that as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut myself a square of that. And this is just a piece from the floral banner, and that's the piece that I'm using as my sky. All right, and to tape this down, I'm going to lift up the trees and tuck my circle under it because I don't want my trees to be cut off, but it has to be turned cut side down. Okay, so lift up the trees and you're going to tuck all of your tree sections on top of the die. So hopefully that makes sense. Can you see how that is on there? And then just to adjust it to the height that you want. I'm going to go ahead and tape that down. There we go. All right, so it won't cut my trees off, but it will cut the circle out underneath. And I'm going to go ahead and put this on there as well because I know I'm going to want some of my sky above there. Let's see. This piece all ready to go. We've got this piece. And we have our sentiment made. All right, there we go. So it took me a while to kind of play around with these Create Escape stamps and dies to really figure out how to use them and get the most out of them on my cards. All right, so we're going to take that away. We don't need that anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and peel that away because we don't need that. Now, I don't need this whole image. I just need the part that is the sky. So I can put that in there. And then we're going to pull this off. Got a little bit of tape on there. There we go. All right, now I want to go ahead and take off all that excess. And I like to turn it over to find all the places that you need to... Because on these trees, there's lots of little pieces that need poked out. I use pretty thick watercolor paper, so it's always, it doesn't just fall out. I usually have to poke them out when I use the watercolor paper. And they poke out just fine. They're not like hard or anything, but they don't fall out all by themselves. All right, did I get them all? One more right there. All right, now right over here, it looks like my die. I'm just going to trim that one little piece out right there. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to cut this a little bit. I only need the top portion, so I'm going to cut that off. Glue on my sky. All right, now this piece, I'm going to go ahead and put foam behind that so that is lifted up. And I'm going to use that thicker foam that I talked about earlier. Put just a few up here on the trees, not very much, because I'm not going to make you sit and watch me foam this whole piece, but there's just a couple of trees that I'm going to put them on just to kind of give that some sturdiness. Okay. Ooh. One here and maybe one right up there. Okay, so let's go ahead and attach this. So I have some fun stuff coming up in the next week or so concerning my crafting. If any of you have not heard of Craft Roulette, it is an online YouTube game show for crafters. It's really fun, and I encourage you to check it out. And I have been contributing on a regular basis, and next week I'll have some fun stuff to share with you about that. So do check that out. If you have not been to Craft Roulette, it is at craftroulette.live.com. And Mary Gunn is the one who runs that, and it's a fun show to not only watch but to participate in. You can make cards and contribute and win prizes. So it's just a fun time. Okay, I'm gonna set this piece right down here so that the eyelet part goes off onto my blue frame. And then this piece I'm going to position so it says happy birthday, and I want that to actually be overlapping my circle here. And that just, if you keep them separated, then it looks very far, but when you put those together, then there's only two sections, 1 and 2, and it just kind of marries them together to have them touching. And that too is just kind of a design trick to group things together. If you have things touching, it causes it to become a group rather than an individual item. So let's see. Try to get my horizon straight. I probably should have just cut this circle to be the same size as the whole thing, but I don't know why I didn't. All right, and now I'm gonna set that right here. And then another thing that I did, before we go any further, let me grab it. I believe, did I use these? Yes. I'm going to bring in some little gold. They're actually gems, but they're very copper in color. And I thought they looked masculine enough that I could get away with using them on this masculine card and it still be masculine looking. So you'll have to let me know. I liked them on there. And it adds a little bit of shine without adding glitter and things like that. So you'll have to tell me what you think. What do you think of the gems? I thought they were pretty masculine gems as far as gems go, right? All right, so right here between where it says happy birthday, I'm going to place the little banner that says get ready to party. And this too is from my Pink Fresh set. And I am going to, oh, you know what? This goes right over the top of my gem, so I'm not going to put a piece of foam over there. There we go. All right, so here are our 2 fish cards. And this one says happy birthday, cheers to you. And this one says happy birthday, get ready to party. And I really like the way that turned out. And again, this one was colored with zig markers. This one was colored with the Altenew. And when I say color, I mean watercolored. Okay, so our very last card that we're going to make today. Oops, let me find it. What did I do with it? I think I lost our card. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and get started. It is the one that uses the cabin. And a good thing that I remember how to make it. So here are our pieces for this card. And I've got so much paper. I've told you I'm really messy behind the scenes. You don't always see my disastrous table that I've made. And here it is. It was buried. I knew it was here somewhere. But this one says happy birthday off to the side. And then it opens up. And you know what? I should read it. What it really says. It says happy birthday. And then on the inside, I've cut a little scene. And it says there can never be... there's no such thing as too much happy. And so if you've got a fella that loves the outdoors, this would be a fun birthday card that he can display in his office or wherever, wishing he was at the campground instead of working, right? So let's go ahead and make this one. So again, this one is an A7 card, and we are going to make that into a easel card. So I'm going to take that, and on the front side, I'm going to score it at 2.5. I think 2.5. Is that what? I'm going to make sure here because I don't want to do it in the wrong place. Yes, 2.5. Okay. And when I do a gatefold, or when I do an easel card, I like to cut my front panels into 2 sections because I don't like it when that panel doesn't glue down and it bubbles up in the middle. That really bothers me, and I have trouble getting it not to do that. Some of you may know a trick to make that not do it, but it seems like no matter what I do, I still get that bubble up feature, and I don't like that. So I'm going to glue this on so that my shadow on the paper is down in the lower corner. And I'm just going to glue that on so it has a nice outline all the way around. So I always decorate the top and the bottom of my easel separately rather than all as one. Okay. And for this one, I'm going to put the shadow of my paper in the other corner top. I don't know if I told you, on the fish card, I got the paper from the Rustic Sunflower paper pad. And on this one, I got it from the Sunrise Lily, which is a pretty old paper pad. All right, to get all of my decorative little pieces here, if I can get them from being tangled up. Okay, I used the, let me get the right one. Let me find it. Sorry. I got so many dies and stamps over here. This one. The same one that's got the happy birthday. And I cut those. I just trimmed them out of the corner. So it's pretty easy to do. You just kind of follow the shape that you want. If you wanted to leave the little curlicues on, you could. I chose to go ahead and cut those off. So I liked this because it kind of is a masculine heart to me. So if if you're giving it to your husband or a family member that you love, this is kind of brings in the idea of a heart without it being super frou-frou heart. So go ahead and glue those into each corner. And the top two, I'm going to glue pointing down. And again, this just creates, a nice backdrop for my image, but isn't overly girly. And you know what? I did it the exact opposite as I did it last time, and I'll show you on my card. On this one, I did them going out, and on this one, I'm doing it going in. So we'll be able to look at it both ways. I don't know that it'll matter. I guess we're about to find out, huh? Okay. I think as long as they're all going the same way, it's going to look just fine. All right, so that gets that part all done. And now, we need to work on our circle. And for this circle, I did it a little bit differently. And I want to show you the different ways that I did this. Let me grab the fish card. Okay, if you look at the fish card, the eyelet circle is underneath my scene. But on this one, instead of making it my base, I made it the rim that's on top. So we're going to go ahead and cut out our cabin scene in the exact same way we did this scene, and it's our eyelet circle that we're going to do a little bit differently. Let me grab my fish scene die. Or sorry, cabin. This is my cabin scene. And again, the cabin scene, much like the others, it's going to give you to cut out all the pieces, or you can cut out just the kind of skyline. And we're going to use the skyline piece again. And just like this, we're going to place it right in there. And once we get that cut out, then we'll cut a circle again, similar to how we did the last time. And I will have to cut off a little bit of sky again, just like I did before, because for some reason I forgot to make those circles when I made my pieces. I think it might take me 3 days to clean up after this card video, because I had so much product all over the place. All right, so I'll set those aside. Now for this one, there aren't overline pieces, so we don't have to worry about that being tucked over the top like we did the last time. And again, I'm only going to need a small piece to be the sky. So let's see what I do with the circle die. There it is. So we're going to use that exact same circle die and place that right over the top and glue it down. And then for this piece, I'm just going to put it right underneath. Hopefully I made it big enough. There we go. I think that ought to do it. All right, now this piece, we're going to attach it, and then we're going to add some foam to just the top arch and see how that's going to work. All right. And this is going to be our base piece. And to get this, I used the largest eyelet circle, and then from the other size, I used the next to the largest to cut that out to make myself a frame using the circle sets. So, you know, depending on which inner piece you use, you can decide how wide you want your frame to be. Okay. And you can see right here, I'm going to have to cut it just a wee little bit. I didn't shim it again, so. All right, so we're going to take this piece and let's see, we want it to be about right there. Just gonna trim this excess off here. Now again, this piece, we're going to pop that one up. Just adding some foam. There we go. This. Just gonna get that right in place. And now for our top piece, we're going to put that on, but just from here to here, we need to add our foam. So let me get the little thin strips of foam. And I'm just going to, can you see me? I'm just going to follow that right on around the top half. And on the bottom half, I'm going to add some glue. I don't think I put the foam too far around. I hope not. Okay. And now we're going to apply that right on top. All right, pretty good. Okay, there we go. There we go. Now, when we apply this piece to our card, we only want the glue to be on this bottom half. So I'm going to put my thumbs right here, and when I turn it over, I've got my fingers right against it. So I know I only want my glue right down here. And now when I place it, I'm going to continue to hold right there on the skyline. I'm going to place that right in the center. Kind of, my goal is to kind of keep my skyline right in line with the fold. Okay. Now, I didn't have any more of the gold happy birthday, so we're going to add this piece right in here. And I'm going to add just a little piece of foam right on top there. Not very much. Okay. I'm also going to add just a little bit of glue on there. And I'm going to tuck it right behind this tree. So, okay, it's not glued anywhere except right on the rim of my circle there. And it looks like right back here, oops, let me do it like this. I have just a little bit of foam that's showing. So I'm going to use my anti-static tool and just bounce that around there so that that doesn't stick. So if that happens to you, just add a little anti-static and it'll be fine. Okay, so now we're just going to finish it off by doing the inside. And for the inside, I went to one of the sheets of the paper that have 4 quadrants. And I'm going to use this one right here with the deer. And I'm just going to trim that off. Just trim the little scene so I can see the whole scene. All right, now this is from a 6x6 and this is a 5x7. So you can glue this just right in there like that, or you can see on my other one, I trimmed some paper, the same paper that I used on top, to be some little sides. But on this one, I don't have any more of that paper left. I used the whole entire sheet. So for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and put it in there. I do have some other papers over here. Let me see. I might be able to use something like this. Let me try that. It's crafting on the fly. Okay. Let me see how tall that is. I'm just going to cut it off rather than go. And I know I just need a little piece on each side, so I'm just going to cut 2 even strips. And now on the inside of my card, I'm just going to glue these 2 little blue pieces. Right on the sides. I knew I was out of that green. Just going to center that. Hopefully that's centered. All right. And now these are just a little bit thinner pop foam, so I'm going to put that on the back of my There's No Such Thing as Too Much Happy. I thought that went along pretty good with the front since it says happy multiple times. And there's room up above here if you wanted to, you know, write a message, or in the sky here, there's plenty of room. But when it's sitting up, I liked having, there we go, and here we go. The blue kind of brings out the blue in the stream. Now, just like on my other card, I kind of like the idea of putting a little gem in the center of each of these. So this one's a little bit different than the ones I used before, but I thought they too had a little bit of a manly feel. Add a little bit of shine without being too girly. And I'm just putting one in each of those centers. Okay. Even the one under the banner. Okay. Go ahead, and we are going to go ahead and lay out all of our masculine cards that we've made today. So if you're like me and you've had a little bit of trouble figuring out how to really use all of the stamps and dies in the Create Escape line, I hope this video has helped you see some of the different options that you have. All right, so here are our two easel cards. Set those right there. And then we have our fish cards, which I think the fish might be my favorite. Although I really like this one that we made today as well. And then our little deer cards. So we've made quite a stash here with our Create Escape stamps and dies. All right, I'm going to go ahead and switch my camera back. Thank you so much for being with me. I know this one was kind of a long one and we went through some of these cards quickly, but I hope they gave you some ideas for how to choose some of your stamps and dies to use for masculine cards. So anyway, thank you so much for being with me, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to crafting with you again very soon. Bye-bye. Have a great day.